Is that not everything?
Yeah, it's confirmed on my end.
And I think I'll also record just in case. I'm already alive. I'll just remove the sound from there. So it doesn't have a background. Okay. We are in YouTube right now.
Hello.
And let me start recording too. So we have in both ends, and I will record on.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. I am Eleonora from the channel The Awakening Path, and I have a special guest with me today, Lorena Espiga. She already came to our channel to talk about akashic records. I put the link on the description of this live. And if you have any question about the Family Constellation Therapy, please type on the comments or in the chat, and I'm going to try to address the questions in the end of our interview. Lorena, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for your warm welcome. I'm so excited to be back and to talk about family constellations today. Because yeah, our last interview was great, and I feel like there's a whole new element to my work now. So it's good that we connected.
Oh, I'm very happy for that too. Before I start, I will give like a brief explanation about soul family from the very, very basics. We were created by God, but not on the time of conception. A way back, and God created an oversoul. And that oversoul remains with God, sharing God's consciousness. One turning point, part of this consciousness decided to have a physical experience and create physical things. And that consciousness, a chunk of that consciousness came to the physical, however, didn't come just to one single individual. They come in groups, and those groups are called soul families. And they come and they incarnate together, exchange roles like I go as a father, you as a mother. Next incarnation, we exchange. Some stays on the spiritual to support the physical, and vice versa. So there is that dynamic. Lorena, can you kind of give us some more input about that?
Definitely. I also like to refer to them as soul groups, I suppose, because I think not all are family members sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the soul sense, it's like a family because you know each other, you've lived many lives together in different dynamics, different roles. And part of the work that I do with family constellations is with the actual family, the family system here. But we look at it through the soul as well, because obviously we have to think about things as like us as individuals, we are a soul, but also the family can have a soul, it can have an energy, a group can have a soul and energy. So there's kind of like it's like the collective soul, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, what you're saying is true. It's before we're actually physically born, right? Our souls already knows what it's going to come to learn, why it chose the people that it came into life with, why we chose our father, why we chose our mother. Maybe we have a sibling or two. And there's things that our family helps us like heal, and the lessons that we have here are very much linked to our family, for sure.
Before we go into the family constellation therapy, let's think about the family dynamic. For example, I think everyone, with a few exception of family, you always have that person that's really trigger you, that drives you crazy. That one, you give the special assignment to that person. All family members, they are like assignments, and they have a role, they play an important role in our life. And that role is to help bring experience to your life, to bring that shadow from your mind, that trauma, that updatedly believed from many, many past lives, bring it to the conscious mind so you can work on. So they are really doing a big favor when they drive you crazy.
Yeah, I think the people that
Funny.
trigger us are our biggest teachers. Yeah. A lot of times
Exactly.
they help us, they always help us grow, but I think a lot of times they're there to show us something bigger. And a lot of things, like you're saying, could be karmic, pending karmic issues, karmic lessons that we're bringing from past lives. And those tend to feel really hard in the present when there's
Yes.
a lot of, yeah.
So even though we are only responsible for our one emotion, for our one creation, because our energy is intermingled with the family members, sometimes when you look at only your consciousness, your one baggage, you're not going to find the reason. So I
Yeah.
let you explain about answering the question. Explain for somebody who never heard about what is family constellation therapy. And we're gonna say FCT for shortness.
Okay. So I just say family constellations. I think um, family constellations is a tool, just like many other therapeutic tools. It's a therapeutic tool where we can look at conflict, we can look at symptoms, disease, we can look at our own emotional issues going on, all through the lens of the family system. So it helps us see where the root of things are and to work through them. So the way that I describe, at least this is the way my perception of it and how it's helped me heal and how I help people heal. Family constellations helps you see what's going on internally outside of you. I think a lot of people get confused. They're like, constellation, it has anything to do with like astrology? No. Constellation, because it's like a map. You're able to kind of extract what's internally happening within yourself and the family system outside of you. And you see it, and it's mind blowing for many people to see these things like right in front of them, because a lot of times it's so internal we don't even see it or notice it or realize it, right?
Yeah,
And then the other part of it is the healing phrases. So we move energy to help bring more peace, to unburden ourselves of things that we might be carrying, to make sure that we're in, because there's three systemic laws, right? So it's making sure that we're in our role. So if it's I'm a mom or I'm a daughter, making sure we're in that role, and that we're also included, because everybody has a right to be a part of a family. We're not here if we don't have a mother and a father, right?
yes,
Obviously, everybody has their dynamics and everybody's story is very different. So we work with whatever you bring. And then the giving and receiving, right? The compensation, making sure that the flow is there, depending on obviously your role and what's happening, making sure all those things are in place. And that's kind of the three things that we work on in a family constellation through observing and the healing phrases. And obviously there's an integration period post family constellation where we sit with the information, we sit with the movement, the energy that's been looked at, and we can slowly kind of allow things to, I don't know, I always say it's like to integrate, but also for us to be more in that energy, right? Is it being more clear on your role? Is it feeling like you are more deserving? It depending on the person, right? But it is a therapeutic tool, so it can accompany a lot of different other healing modalities, right?
let's get a little bit more technical. For example, when you are working with somebody, how that happen? Is that like intuitive? You see visions, the person kind of how that dynamic, just a little bit more technical so people can have.
Um, yes, I mean, I can't get away from the intuitive stuff because of the Akashic records, and I think
Yeah.
there's a part of me that's in that energy constantly, and I'm listening to it, but I don't go too much into that energy. I might have a hypothesis, I might have an idea of what's going on, but the person always shows that to me. The person's revealing everything in the session. Usually I do one-on-one sessions with people on Zoom. So the person is saying things and that reveals everything. And not only saying it, they're feeling it. That this is how this makes me feel. Okay. And then we go deeper with that. So yeah, there is an intuitive sense. And I think as you progress on a journey of any type of like going into any tool, learning a tool, being a reader, I think a lot of times you get to see a pattern and you understand it, but you never guess, right? You have to, the person shows it to you.
What I'm trying to visualize is what's the difference between a conventional family therapy and the family constellation therapy?
So I
Why
assume,
that brings more to the table? Why you can really go deeper instead of the conventional therapy?
well, usually conventional therapy is talk therapy, right? So it's you
Yeah.
sitting, either the family sitting with a therapist, or sometimes one person goes to therapy individually with the same therapist and then they come together. Um, that's great, right? And I always say I love therapy. It's a tool that I lean on a lot. But family constellations is individual. You go in with something you want to work on and you go deep. You go into ancestral things, you go into patterns. It's it's not talk therapy. It's we're looking at something, we're feeling it in our body. It's very much body work because you're sitting with it and you're feeling it. And the moment you feel it, you know it's true. It becomes true. You understand it. So it's not thinking, it's feeling. It's very different. And I think there's a place, I always say to people, maybe there's something you need to work on with therapy after a session like this, right? Because you want to keep working deeper with something and you kind of go back and forth with these kind of different tools. There's a place for all of it. And I think some people do need that support
I
with
see.
certain aspects of what they're going through, like grief or um, trauma. I think there's a place for all of it, but I don't think one can replace the other.
I agree with that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So how do you get to learn and work with a family constellation?
I It first started with my own healing journey because I was getting family constellation sessions with my constellator in Uruguay. And then I went into this whole route with the akashic records, and I kept feeling the pull towards the family system. They kept showing me patterns and things to look at, and they kept bringing it to the ancestors and breaking like generational patterns and changing things, right? And it always went to the family. And I got to a point in my readings where I I obviously felt guided by my own spiritual team, but I say it got to a point where I felt like I had to go down this route of becoming a constellator because there was only so much energy I could move through a reading. And it's like this added complementary tool can come in when the person needs it. They can suggest it, they can feel called to it, and I can help them move further energy because it is very different a reading from a constellation. So I was pulled in that
That's
direction because
more
of the work.
personal
Yeah.
and interactive.
Yeah. The constellations, family constellations are more interactive for sure. It's not questions, it's we set an objective and we look and we feel. And then we move energy with the healing phrases. The healing phrases are what help move energy for us to leave a session feeling different. Is it lighter? Is it feeling more peace? Is it understanding things at a deeper level? Probably all of the above. And we will see what we're ready to see, right? It's like with anything, it's nothing's forced. Nothing is an obligation. It's what are you ready to see? And we'll go as far as you're ready to go, right?
That's the follow-up question. When we know that family constellation therapy is the best option at the moment.
I say if you are having patterns show up in your family, like with a mother, a father, a sibling, your children, your partner, relationships, right? I think family constellations can be a really good route to look at certain patterns, to create more harmony, to find more peace, um, for sure. And then I think it's like anything I always say, it's like, do you feel called to it? Does it intrigue you? Do you have curiosity? Are you open to looking at things? I don't think everybody's ready for it because it is deep work. It's not like you're sitting there asking questions and getting information. You're completely immersed in that energy field while we're working and we're moving energy. And it's, I have to, I always say to people, like, I've never myself personally done a constellation with somebody where I'm going to heal something for myself, I'm going to look at something, I don't think I've had one session where I haven't cried, like cried. The other sessions I cry, I release. I'm so open, like I feel safe, obviously, with the person I'm doing the session with, that I always leave feeling better. I always leave feeling lighter. And obviously there's a sense of you move energy. So yeah, sometimes you can feel a little tired afterwards. Sometimes you feel energized. I hear both spectrums of it, but I don't know. I feel like these sessions, you have to feel called. You might not understand what they're about, and I think like a podcast like this could
Yeah.
help people understand it. But I think the bottom line is kind of like if you have issues in your family, which we all do in some way, family constellations can help. Because there's always something, everything comes from our mother and father and our family,
Right.
everything.
What I like to think is when you are looking for or feel drawn to any energy work, actually it's always your guides will show you. There will be a video about YouTube that comes from nowhere. A thought that pop up in your mind, a friend that never talk about something suddenly come with that idea for you. So you're gonna get all signs because your guides are gonna tell you you are ready for that. There is something there for you. So you just need to follow your intuition, to listen to your internal guidance system that is always tell you what the best next step.
Mhm.
And you're gonna see, and then maybe Lorena information will pop up in the screen and say, oh, I'm more interested about that. Can I use that? Maybe not at the moment, but that will be saved for later. I think I'm really ready now. So it's really an internal knowing that comes from your connection to your true self.
Yeah. Yeah. And the intuition's a big thing here. That's exactly how I find a lot of the people I work with, I feel drawn to their energy. So I'm like, hey, I want a reading with you, or I need this from you. Can you help me? Right. So yes,
Yeah.
definitely. That's definitely a big part of it.
Yes, that's comes to another point as who you're gonna choose, who you're gonna really open up yourself. Again, it's not going there and read all the reviews. It's not like an intellectual, mental work that you need to see. You're gonna feel it. For example, when I choose the person that will do the QHHT for me, I really Google, and suddenly the second person that appears is Mayra, and Mayra, I wrote a little novel when I was 17. And the name of the main character I gave Mayra, and I never heard that name before. I don't know how that came up to me.
Wow.
And then, like more than 20 years later, I'm looking for a therapist, a hypnotist, and Mayra appears and okay, there is something there for me. And when I looking at her work and everything is just connected, they felt, okay, I found the person. I didn't even call anybody else. So
I
you're
love
not going to be shown things. You just
that.
need to be open to listen and really trust that you're being really guided.
Mm. Yeah, I agree 100%. And it could be even something like that. Yeah, like the name or the person's energy. And you're like, this person's energy is drawing me in. They make me feel safe. I always say you have to feel safe with the
Yeah.
person that you work with, especially family constellations. I think you really have to feel connected to the person's energy. Most people say, well, I felt drawn to you. I'm like, okay, that's great. That's a good sign. Like we're on a good starting point, right? So
Yes,
that's
and
wonderful.
because it really goes deep, it's like you go with your naked soul.
Yeah, very open.
Because you're gonna find out things about yourself that you'll never imagine with. So you need to feel that you're not being judged, that you are okay, that you are really safe and your information is safe.
Yes, yes,
And
100%.
that's beautiful. The name is Family Constellation. Do you need to drag a family member to a family constellation therapy or you do by yourself and stuff like that?
I love that question. No. That's a good, I mean, people ask me that question, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I work one-on-one with people. So you'd come to me, for example, you're going to come to me, I want to work on my relationship with my mom. Okay, perfect. But your mom doesn't have to be there. I think bringing in family members can be really tricky. I'm sure there's certain constellators that might do that. And there are group sessions where it could be that your mom is there, for example. But the idea is that somebody could represent her, or there's an element that represents her, because that'll show us more. Otherwise, sometimes we can get our head
Can you
involved.
give a visual of element?
Yeah, I actually have one here. Let me just get one out here. I use these little dolls, so I'll show you. I work with a little board, and I have these little dolls. Let me see if can
I
you see
see.
it there? Let me see.
Yeah.
See here, like these little dolls.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, I just have to tell you,
yeah.
people, it's not witchcraft. I'm not gonna do anything
No, these
to
little
those
dolls,
dolls.
you connect. No, not at all. And the person, I mean, everybody's always surprised, like, wow, especially when people represent. I think group dynamics are very, very powerful. I actually did a workshop yesterday where people, it's all on Zoom, and the person selected somebody to represent their themselves, because usually we have somebody that represents us, and they don't know each other. They don't know their story, and they're feeling things in their body because we're connected to the field, right? And the person's like, oh my gosh, this person that represents me, heard this over and over again, and I've seen it with my own eyes working as well. Uh, like this person explained exactly how I feel better than I have ever been able to explain it. I'm literally getting goosebumps. Like,
Hmm.
in the elements, you'll feel into the elements. It's a little bit different than somebody saying, this is how I'm feeling. As you connect to it, it's like, this feels this way or this way, or when I look at this, I don't want to look at it. I feel like I want to look the other way. We connect to the field. It says a lot. I love working with the little Playmobil figurines, because I think it's also bringing like this element of play. I think we think of ourselves like when we're children and we're very like just connected to something and we're focused on it. So I think it does trigger something within us when we work with those, and people are like, oh, cool dolls, and it feels less intimidating,
Mm-hmm.
but very powerful. Um, so yeah, I think I work mostly with the dolls one-on-one. And no, I wouldn't, if would say to me, like, I want to work on my relationship with mom, you don't bring your mom. You come, we'll work on it, because what if your mom doesn't want to change? What if she
Exactly.
doesn't see? We just need to work through your lens, through your reality, and what needs to be shown will be shown.
That's a
Saying
very
that,
good,
it still helps your mom, it still helps the relationship, it helps the entire family system. It moves energy for everybody.
that's a
But it's
good
about
point.
us when we come to a
That's
session.
a
So
very
what do
good
I need?
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though they are the trigger, it's not your responsibility to change them, and you do not depend on what they do for you to complete the lesson.
No, and a
That's
lot of
all about
times,
you. You can only work on yourself, and you are only responsible for your own emotions.
yeah.
How you respond to things that's in front of you.
Yeah. And I think also, yes, there could be instances where I don't know, like I don't work that way, and maybe some constellators do. Um, but it's usually about how we're feeling, like you said. So it's interesting sometimes that we can be angry at somebody, for example. This is just like a quick example. I'm angry at my mom. She triggers me. I'm so angry. And then we go into the constellation, we start understanding why that is happening. What's actually happening? What was her experience? What happens behind her? What came before her? And then all of a sudden we can create more compassion sometimes, right? We can create more
Yeah.
awareness around certain things. So then that doesn't need to trigger us anymore. It's not about her. It's about how we're connecting with it and why does it trigger us?
Yes, many teachings that I am studying always say the same thing. Things that happen in front of you is just a physical representation of what's in your mind.
Yeah.
If it's something happen in front of you, even though it's weird, it doesn't trigger you,
Hmm.
it's because it has nothing to do with you. But if
Yeah.
it's trigger you, it's because there is something in your mind that you need to look at. It's not really somebody else's fault that you got angry.
No, I do agree though,
To show you something in your mind to work on.
100%. And I think a lot of times we might need to put up a boundary, right?
That's
We
true.
might need to take action on something with love and kindness towards ourselves, with compassion towards the other person as well. So, sometimes a session like this could help bring awareness around that. It's like, actually, I don't feel so good when this person acts this way. I can't control it. I understand where it's coming from, but I know I need to put up a boundary for my own well-being. And you do that with love. You don't do that from anger or rage, right? You do that from a sense of, I love myself enough to be able to put up this boundary now with this person, even if they're my mom, even if they're my sibling. And that's what's best for me right now. But you can do that
Yeah.
from a place of like clarity and this calm energy, right? And I mean, there's so many different things that we could talk about with family constellation, but that's a good point. Like, yeah, sometimes boundaries are important.
Let me just go back a little bit of a group session. You kind of open up yourself a lot through strangers, let's put it this way. I visualize it's like group therapy when you go like AAA, for example. Everything is confidential. Don't worry, nobody you're gonna put in
Yes,
Facebook what you said.
that's very important. Very important. Be it that it's an in-person group where people are physically there or you're on Zoom. Nothing's recorded, obviously, because there's no need to
Yeah,
record. The
yeah.
work is done there and then you let it go. Um, yes, that is part of you being able to open up. If you feel like somebody's going to talk about it, even the person doing the work, the person that brings the subject or the theme or the issue, the idea is that they also don't talk about it for a bit with anybody, because otherwise you get your head involved and you start over analyzing. The idea is the job's done, the work's done, I've moved energy, I let it go, and in a couple of weeks I'll reconnect with it. And I can maybe tell somebody what I experience because it's your constellation. The other people are just representatives of that. And yes, the idea is that we don't share that.
Let's compare the individual with a group.
Mm.
My point of view is, for example, sometimes you really need the individual because you want to go deep and then you need that one-to-one interaction. But when you are in a group, you also learn, get awareness from others people experience.
Yeah.
What do you have to comment about that?
I think there's never a coincidence when a group comes together. Even yesterday in the workshop that I had in my community, the topic opened up to everybody. We ended up, obviously, because it's my community, we ended up chatting about life and everything afterwards, and it's a very tight community. So we all somehow resonated with the issue that came up in the constellation. It touched us, each and every one of us in some way, even myself, who was the constellator. And the same thing when you go into a group setting, you might just be sitting back and observing, but something will always resonate with you. You're
Events.
there for a reason, even if you don't participate physically by raising your hand and constellating something yourself, or even representing. You might be like, I just want to observe. You're going to get something out of it. It will help move something always. It's never a coincidence. The group that comes together, it's for a reason.
I want to try one of those group sessions one day. How people find you for that?
Well, on my website, still have to update my website, but you can, yeah, I'll give you my contact form link. People usually I'll send you a link because I have a promotion going on right now for my constellations. They're at a super discounted rate for a couple months. So if anybody wants to try it, they can go there and just click on the contact link there. Um, and yeah, I'm going to publish some workshops, some group workshops, in the next couple of months. I'm not quite offering that just yet. I'm just working one-on-one with people. But going back to what you just said, yeah, I think one-on-one sessions are great, especially when you don't want to share something. It's something that you're not ready to bring out to a group or to a lot of people. So the one-on-one session could allow you to feel safer. So in those cases, I'd say yes. Or you just feel more comfortable with one-on-ones. But groups
Yeah.
can be very, very interesting, and I think can help bring even more light to certain things. So yeah.
And that's true. There is a lot of healing that happen on those therapies, being in individual or group. Can you give us some practical examples that happened to you or in your client that you can share so people have a vision? Can be
Yeah.
like not only mental, emotional, but also physical healing.
I'll give you a really good example, actually. Quite a few years ago, I want to say it was probably like 2018, I think it was. A friend of mine that had been struggling with just battling cancer, basically, um, passed away after probably, I think it was almost like 2 years of battling with cancer. She left behind two little babies. And I was in a different country at the time. I was on vacation. Like I'm using air quotes here because I was like away. I wasn't at home. And I found out the news through a friend. She messaged me. And I instantly had to repress the emotions because I was around a lot of people I didn't know. I didn't feel comfortable just letting go
Mhm.
and feeling that sadness and that grief to the point where 2 days later, I start getting hives all over my body. My face would swell up, my lip would swell up, my eye would swell up. I was like, oh my gosh. And I knew I wasn't allergic to anything. I still got a bunch of tests. I went to all the doctors. They're like, I'm like, could this be emotional? And I knew my intuition told me it was, but I needed to like say, I'm certain it's not like all of a sudden I'm allergic to something. I knew it was emotional. It's happened various times in my life since I was little. It's like I'm very, my body will show me when there's
Mhm.
something wrong. So I waited because the consolator that I worked with in Uruguay, she didn't do virtual sessions because this was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up traveling to Uruguay. I got a session with her, and months later, I'm talking about a year and a half of these hives that would not go away with anything.
Wow.
I changed my diet, I meditated, I was doing readings, I was doing everything I could, but it was like the grief was stuck in my body. So I did a session with her. We looked at a bunch of things. We brought my friend into the constellation, and within weeks, the hives were gone. They were gone. I was able to process that grief and kind of get it out and move it from my body. Another example would be I was probably in my 30s and I started getting this intense pain in my hip. Also, it was about a year and a half until I actually went to do a constellation. I was like, you know what? I went to get an MRI. I did physio. Nothing is helping. They keep telling me I'm fine, but I can't run. I can't exercise. Like my hip hurts a lot.
Mhm.
So I was like, my mom was like, why don't you go consulate? I was like, all right, let me go do consulate. I consulated and it ended up being connected just to have an idea of like how crazy the unconscious mind and the connection to our family is.
Mhm.
Ended up coming through the constellation that I was connecting to my mom's brother, my uncle, who had passed at around the same age I was at the time, maybe a year off. And he had died. He had an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm, and then had complications because he was showering and it was just very, very tragic. And it always stuck with me how my mom experienced that because I had seen her go into this deep depression. I'd never seen her so upset in my life. And I remember seeing that and it like shocked me. So somehow unconsciously I connected to my mom's pain and I took that on in my hip. I always say like nothing. This sounds crazy, but 2 days after that constellation, that pain went away. It never came back. And I basically in that session, just to have an idea, it's the one I have most vivid because it blew my mind. This is a long time ago. I remember connecting with my mom, connecting with my uncle in that session, and giving that pain back to my mom. It wasn't mine to carry,
Mhm.
and kind of honoring them in that session. And I cried a lot. I remember crying so much, and it was like I felt lighter, lighter so much that the pain went away. I was like, I don't have to hold on. We hold on to physical pain, right? Symptoms in our
Yeah.
body are saying something about our emotional body as well. So I was literally holding on to my mom's grief and pain, trying to help her. That's how much I love her, right? That's how much we love our family members.
And you do that unconsciously.
It's
We do a
unconscious.
lot
I
of things
had
unconsciously.
no idea. No idea. When I looked, I'm like, oh my God, this is connected to my uncle. Like, what? So that, I think that session, it was probably, I had done quite a few constellations before that, but that was the one that most impacted me. And I said, wow, this stuff is
I can see
insane.
how look for this type of healing is really important because some people that are not aware of those alternatives, they end up on surgery
Oh yeah.
and they try and solve the problem
It won't, you have to get to the
because
root
the
of it.
cause is still there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm bringing Lorena here, and I bring others that to do other kinds of healing too, for you to know that you have options to explore. But it's important to say that the root of all the diseases, all the problems you have, the mental, emotional, or physical, is the mind, is thoughts and beliefs, traumas. So you need to heal the mind in order to reflect on the physical. But sometimes when the pain is already on the physical, it's already manifested in the physical, you need a physical intervention. So I'm not dismissing, okay, just stop it doing other. No, you continue with your conventional
Yeah.
and do those alternatives. Those alternatives will help you heal faster and heal for good.
Yeah, you do both. Why
Yeah.
don't you do both? There's space for everything.
Lorena, let me take a look at YouTube. Let's see if anybody is commenting. I don't, it's the first time I do it, so I don't see anybody commenting here.
You can
I
always
think
message
we're
me,
gonna,
contact me.
I,
Yeah.
yes, I think we're gonna end if I think I know how to end the live. Let me go back here to Zoom. And thank you very much for connect with me. Just stay on. I'll just end the live stream.
Thank you.